Hello children, welcome to English class. Today I have taken up a chapter from your Honeydew textbook, chapter number 7, A Visit to Cambridge. It is written by Firdaus Kanga. Firdaus Kanga was born in Mumbai in 1960, born with osteogenesis imperfect, a disease that makes the bones brittle. His semi autobiographical work talks about disability, culture, and many other aspects of social life. It is acclaimed internationally and it was made into a feature film called Sixth Happiness. Kanga also acted in the film. In this chapter, we have one more character also. The name is Stephen Hawking. This chapter is the conversation between Firdaus Kanga and Stephen Hawking. So, the summary of the chapter is this is the story of a meeting between two extraordinary people, both of them disabled or differently abled, as we now say. Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time and he suffers from a form of paralysis that confines him to a wheelchair and allows him to speak only by punching buttons on a computer which speaks for him in a machine like voice. And Firdaus Kanga is a writer and journalist who lives and works in Mumbai. He was born with a condition commonly referred to as brittle bones. His bones tended to break easily when he was a child. And like Hawking, he moves around in a wheelchair. The two great men exchange thoughts on what it means to live life in a wheelchair and on now how the so called normal people react to disability and the disabled. Firdaus Kanga is saying that Cambridge was my metaphor for England, and it was strange that when I left it had become altogether something else because I had met Stephen Hawking there. Earlier, England was important to author only because there was Cambridge. Now it had a greater appeal for him. In this line, my metaphor means a thing regarded as representative or symbolic of something. So, Cambridge is his metaphor for Kanga in England. It was on a walking tour through Cambridge. A walking tour is a tour of a historical or cultural site undertaken on foot, frequently in an urban setting. He had met Stephen Hawking there during a walking tour. Stephen Hawking is a disabled person. The guide mentions Stephen Hawking, poor man, who is quite disabled now, though he is a worthy successor to Isaac Newton, whose chair he has at the university. Here, successor mean inheritor. So, Stephen Hawking is a disabled person, so he is the successor of Isaac Newton and has his chair at the university. And I started because I'd quite forgotten that this most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist, the author of A Brief History of Time, one of the biggest bestsellers ever lived here. Astrophysicist means scholar of astrophysics, branch of physics dealing with stars and planets, etc. So he is a brilliant astrophysicist. He is also the author of A Brief History of Time. It is the biggest bestseller of his time. Now, Kanga is telling us that when the walking tour was done, he rushed to a phone booth and almost tearing the cord so it could reach him outside, phoned Stephen Hawking's house. There was his assistant on the line, and I was told him I had come in a wheelchair from India to write about my travels in Britain. I had to see Professor Hawking, even 10 minutes would do. Half an hour, he said, from 3:30 to 4. Here, cord means cable, propelled means pushed. When the tour was over, the writer phoned Stephen Hawking's house. Hawking's assistant attended the phone call. He told the assistant that he had come from India. He added that he was on a wheelchair. He mentioned that he wanted to write a book about his travels in Britain. Then he expressed his desire to Stephen Hawking. The time for his meeting, the professor was fixed. It was from 3:30 to 4. And when Firdaus Kanga came out of the booth, suddenly he felt weak all over. Growing up disabled, you get fed up with people asking you to be brave, as if you have a courage account on which you are too lazy to draw a check. The only thing that makes you stronger is seeing somebody like you achieving something huge. Then you know how much is possible and you reach out further than you ever thought you could. The interview began on time. The writer felt that the disabled got fed up with the people asking them to be brave. They got stronger on seeing somebody like them achieving something huge. I haven't been brave, said his disembodied computer voice. The next afternoon, I have no choice. Surely I wanted to say, living creatively with the reality of his disintegrated body was a choice, but I kept quiet because I felt guilty every time I spoke to him, forcing him to respond. There he was, tapping at the little switch in his hand, trying to find the words on his computer with the only bit of movement left to him, his long, pale fingers. Every so often, his eyes would shut in frustrated exhaustion, and sitting opposite him, I could feel his anguish, the mind buoyant with thoughts that came out in frozen phrases and sentences still stiff as corpses. Disembodied means separated from the body. Anguish means severe mental or physical pain or suffering. Buoyant means intensely active and vibrant. So here what Kanga wants to say, that is, he spoke by finding the words on his computer and then tapping a little switch in his hand with the only remaining movement left in his pale and long fingers. He would get easily fatigued and would shut his eyes even now and then in frustration. The author mentioned how he could feel Hawking's pain as the thought in his intensely active and vibrant mind came out, emotionless and stiff as a corpse. A lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy, I said. I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? About 3 minutes later, he responded, I find it amusing when people patronize me. And do you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs you in your work? The answer flashed, yes. Then he smiled his one way smile, and I knew without being sentimental or silly that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. So, here chronically means in a persistent and recurring way, amusing, causing laughter, and providing entertainment. Patronize, to be kind or helpful to someone, but to talk to them as if they are inferior. Sentimental, prompted by feeling of tenderness or nostalgia. So, the meaning of these sentences is the author expresses how most people think that people with different abilities are constantly sad and miserable, but as far as he is talking about himself, it is not true. He asked Hawking if it was true for him or was he laughing on the inside. It looks Hawking almost 3 minutes to the response. He finds it entertaining when people are only kind to him because of his different abilities. The author further asks him if he feels irritated when people like him come and keep him away from his work, to which he answered a firm yes. After that, Stephen smiled, his one way smile, now giving in to emotion, but the author knew for sure that he was looking at one of the most beautiful and wonderful men in the world. A first glimpse of him is shocking because he is like a still photograph, as if all those pictures of him in magazines and newspaper have turned three-dimensional. Then you see the head twisted sideways into a slump, the torso shrunk inside the pale blue shirt, the wasted legs. You look at his eyes, which can speak still, and they are saying nothing, huge and urgent. It is hard to tell what, but you are shaken because you have seen something you never thought could be seen. Before you, like a lantern whose walls are worn so thin you glimpse only the light inside, is the incandescence of a man. The body, almost irrelevant, exists only like a case made of shadows, so that I, no believer in eternal souls, know that this is what each of us is, everything else as accessory. So when you see him, it appears as if he is like a lantern whose walls are so worn out that you only see the light inside. Yes, before you is the inner glow of a man. It makes you feel that the body is irrelevant and exists only like a case made of shadows. It even makes the author a non-believer in eternal souls. One realizes that a man is no more than that. Everything else is just not essential. What do you think is the best thing about being disabled? I had asked him earlier. I don't think there is anything good about being disabled. I think I said you do discover how much kindness there is in the world. Yes, he said it was a disadvantage of his voice synthesizer that it could convey no inflection, no shades or tone. And I could not tell him enthusiastically he agreed with me. So the author asked Stephen what, according to him, is the best thing about being differently able. To which Hawking replied that he did not find anything good about it. The author then expressed that he thinks it makes you discover that there is so much kindness in the world. Stephen agreed, but due to his voice synthesizer, the author could not decipher the excitement behind his answer, as there is a disadvantage that comes with it, that it conveys no inflection, shade, or tone. Kanga asked him, is there any advice you can give disabled people, something that might help make life better? They should concentrate on what they are good at. I think things like the disabled Olympics are a waste of time. I know what do you mean. I remembered the years I'd spent trying to play a Spanish guitar considerably larger than I was, and how gleefully I had unstringed it one night. The half an hour was up. I think I've annoyed you enough, I said, grinning. Thank you for. Stay, I waited. Have some tea. I can show you the garden, but garden was as big as a park. But Stephen Hawking covered every inch, rumbling along in his motorized wheelchair while I dodged to keep out of the way. We couldn't talk very much. The sun made him silent, the letters on his screen disappearing in the glare. An hour later, we were ready to leave. I didn't know what to do. I could not kiss him or cry. I touched his shoulder and wheeled out into the summer evening. I looked back and I knew he was waving, though he wasn't watching him, an embodiment of the bravest self. The one I was moving toward, the one I had believed in for so many years alone. I knew that my journey was over for now. He advised Kanga that disabled need to concentrate on what they are good. They should try nothing beyond it. They must not be over enthusiastic. Then the writer saw Hawking Big Garden. At last he wheeled out. The writer found his journey successful and inspiring. So this is the interview taken by the Firdaus Kanga and the answers given by Stephen Hawking. So that's all about this chapter. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.